Welcome back everyone to another video, and today we are talking over the Cincinnati Bengals 2024 season, if they can really get back to the Super Bowl or at least have the personnel to compete with some of the teams at the top of the league like they were able to just a couple seasons ago. Starting out though, we're going to jump right into it with the newest addition from this past draft class, at least on offense, which is Jermaine Burton, the wide receiver from Alabama. If you guys not watched my other videos like this over Drake May, the Chargers, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. I'm going to format the exact same way. So we will briefly go over Burton and go over his strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll talk about more Burrow and how not only Burton but the rest of the players obviously kind of fit in for this year, some schedule stuff, all that kind of stuff right there. So for his strengths and weaknesses, I'm not going to go over every single one. If you guys would like to read over every single one, you can pause the video, whatever you guys want to do there. I will highlight a couple of them. First one being premium deep ball tracker with know how to control late catch space, and then finds a second gear to help run down the deep ball. To me, those being his strengths, that sounds like someone Joe Burrow is going to love. I mean, Jamar Chase, we've seen, can kind of do really everything all over the field. He has a great after-the-catch ability with really good speed, and then he's complemented by T. Higgins, who's more of like a contested catch guy. And now you get Burton, who could be a very good deep threat. For his weaknesses, though, they do say that he lacks creativity after the catch, but, if that's not his game, that's not his game. I think he can definitely learn from Jamar Chase, though. I think he's honestly incredible after the catch. But, not every person is going to be able to, have that ability or have that as one of their strengths. I still think Burton can provide some very meaningful reps and snaps for the Bengals this year, especially because, a healthy Burrow, they like to throw it deep. They weren't able to do that a whole lot last year, but we're going to go over what healthy Burrow looks like, and it's someone that could definitely utilize Jermaine Burton to his, I wouldn't say full potential in his rookie season, but he can definitely be a huge threat for other teams. And then, as I've highlighted in my previous videos like this, Jermaine Burton's RAS score, and if you guys don't know what that is, it is the relative athletic score, which is essentially a composite score from 1 to 10 that takes into account a player's height, weight, 40-yard dash time, vertical, and then gives them a score 1 to 10. I will say he scored very well, 9.09. However, he did not have his agility testing done. I'm not really sure why. I'm not sure if it's just because it's not loaded onto here, if there was a reason for that. But regardless of why his agility testing is not there, he had a very solid 40-yard dash time and is clearly very, very explosive. I love this for the Bengals offense. They need another receiver like this, especially when, T. Higgins might be leaving the next season. They might need somebody else. But before we get there, let's talk about this season. And just before we get into this season, let's talk about Joe Burrow last season. So last season, it really wasn't good from the very start. In training camp, hurts his calf, and that really plagues him, for the first, I want to say all the way really through the Titans game. The Cardinals game, I think, was when he kind of started looking like himself again. But injuries just really, it was still obviously nagging him, and then he gets the wrist injury. Was not a good season for Burrow health-wise at all. Going into his game log, in my opinion, his best game was probably against the 49ers in the 31-17 win, where he went 28 for 32 with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, for also for 283 yards. I'm not sure why I skipped over that. Against, the would-be Super Bowl runner-ups. So that's probably his best game last season. Obviously, we've seen Burrow can do a lot more than this, but again, injuries weighed him down. This was just not the season the Bengals were anticipating, and, it sucks. It is what it is, though. So ultimately, last year, Joe Burrow finished with 2,309 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So, yeah, it was pretty bad. However, Joe Burrow's last healthy season in 2022, he threw for 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, and he also had 5 rushing touchdowns as well. I think one of his best games that season was probably the second time they played the Steelers, which I'm going to highlight is right. Okay. Oh, that did not work. Right here. He won 37-30 against the Steelers defense, where he threw 24 for 39, 355 yards with 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I think that was one of his better games. I got to see that Panthers game in person, so that was great. And then in the playoffs, they beat Baltimore by 7, handled the Bills pretty easily, and then ultimately lost the Chiefs by 3 in Arrowhead to come up short of a Super Bowl appearance again. So it was almost back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, but back-to-back AFC Championship games. It's what we've seen from a healthy Joe Burrow, who is also 3-1 against the best quarterback in the league, which is Patrick Mahomes. So then coming over to this season in the depth chart as of right now, because there are some big differences to what we've seen in the games we're just looking at, because that personnel was a bit different. They had Joe Mixon then, they had Tyler Boyd then, they had Hayden Hurst then. It's a bit different now. So we have Joe Burrow, Zach Moss, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Jermaine Burton, Mike Gesicki, Orlando Brown Jr., Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Trent Brown. Now, I'm going to actually start with the O-line for this because the Bengals have made a point of trying to strengthen their O-line really ever since Burrow tore his ACL. I think going to this year, there's a lot of things to be happy about. First off, you get that big-time draft pick in Amarius Mims. You bring in Orlando Brown Jr. from last season you did, and then this season you also bring in Trent Brown. So you've done a lot to try and protect Joe Burrow. Hopefully that pays off this year and he can stay injury-free, but I would like to point out, though, that his O-line should be much improved going into this season. As far as the skill groups go, though, so Zach Moss has now replaced Joe Mixon for starting running back. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, to be honest, because Mixon, I think, still has some good football left in him. But Zach Moss is a much better blocker. Joe Mixon was not the best blocker. And Zach Moss is also not bad in the receiving game. And obviously the Bengals, I would say, are more a pass-first team. Also, Chase Brown, I want to highlight him. He was very solid last year. He didn't play a whole lot, but what we saw, there were definitely flashes. He was pretty explosive. So I want to keep an eye on him this year. And then the receiving group is where things get a little interesting. So Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Jermaine Burton are the wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 as of right now. Also, we'll throw Mike Gesicki, too, for tight end. So let's start with Jamar Chase. Obviously, we've seen what he can do. He's been banged up off and on over the past couple seasons, but regardless, he's been very, very good. Over 1,000 yards every single time. One of the best rookie seasons in recent memory for wide receivers, a couple seasons ago. And then obviously T. Higgins, one of the better contested catchers or jump ball receivers, I guess is the best way to put it. One of the best jump ball receivers in the entire NFL. And then Jermaine Burton, obviously haven't seen a whole lot of. We saw Andre Yoshivas, I think is how you say his last name, last season, who looked to be, have some potential there. And then Mike Gesicki replaces Irv Smith from last season, and then 2 seasons ago they had Hayden Hurst. So new tight end in each of the past 3 seasons for the Bengals. Mike Gesicki, though, is a very solid tight end. I think they can utilize him pretty well in the passing game. So I do actually like that for Joe Burrow. The reason I think it's such a crucial year for the Bengals, though, is because Burrow is on track with his rehab, and I'm not even gonna try and throw anything out there as far as like a healthy offseason. I don't want to jinx it or anything like that. But assuming your roster looks like this coming into this season, this is one of those crucial years for a couple reasons. You got Burrow healthy at that point in time. You need to capitalize on it. You want to see what you have in your O-line to ensure that you have, in fact, upgraded it and it's not, still getting Burrow sacked a bunch of times. And you also need to capitalize on what could be your last year T. Higgins. And that is going to be a big storyline for the Bengals. Really all offseason, I'm sure T. Higgins is still being mocked to be traded to, wherever. At this point in time, I'd be pretty surprised if they trade him anywhere, to be honest. I think he's going to ultimately probably play this year for the Bengals. But, as far as the long-term deal goes, I don't know if that's going to happen. I would be pretty surprised if T. Higgins is playing for the Bengals next year. So this needs to be a big year for the Bengals, because here's another thing. You're in the AFC North, and it's a very tough division. You have the Ravens, who are going to be very, very tough for any team in that division to knock off of being, the AFC North champs. The Browns are a fun team, very, very good defense. Deshaun Watson is hopefully going to come back better this year after being injured last season and missing a majority of the year. Also, Nick Chubb coming back for them last year, and what was a really crazy year for the Browns. And then also the Steelers, very interesting because they've gotten better over the past couple seasons. You could tell Kenny Pickett was really holding back that offense. So whether it's Russell Wilson that elevates them, maybe even Justin Fields gets in and elevates them, regardless, it's going to be a very, very tough division. Every game is going to be crucial for the Bengals. And you have a pretty tough opening to the opening season, basically. That makes sense. First couple weeks. I'm not sure why I phrased that so weird before. And the reason why I say tough couple weeks is because first game is the Patriots. The Bengals should win this game, but the Patriots defense is very, very good. Patriots will have Matthew Judon back and healthy, Christian Gonzalez back and healthy. This will be a nice test week 1 for the Bengals and their offense to see what they're really looking like. And obviously week 2 against the Chiefs, this will be a very big test for the Bengals. And so I'm not going to go through every single game and, say win, loss, all that kind of stuff. That will actually be later this offseason, so be ready for that. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We're at 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for all that support. But yeah, more team-focused videos and actually doing record predictions will be later on when it gets a bit closer to the season, probably in that mid-June to early July time, also maybe in through August a little bit too. But yeah, so again, looking at this, the Bengals face some very good defense this year. Obviously, the Ravens twice a year, Steelers twice a year, Browns twice a year. You'll have the Eagles defense in there that now kind of reloaded at secondary. The Giants defense, as far as their D-line, very, very, very good D-line. And yeah, so again, it's going to be a tough year for the Bengals. And schedule aside, this roster right here, or I'm sorry, this offense right here will have to stack up against other offenses in the AFC because, again, the AFC is very, very competitive. There are teams that will not make the playoffs that are going to be pretty solid teams. You know, the Bengals could be in there. The Bengals could get like third place in their division with a winning record and not make it. Like, that is a very real possibility. You have divisions like the AFC South that a couple seasons ago, absolutely terrible. Now you have the Jaguars that are a solid team. The Texans that are like one of the favorites in the AFC all of a sudden out of nowhere thanks to TJ Stroud and, you know, D'Amico Ryans and all that kind of new era, you know, Houston Texans. And you have the Colts who have gotten much, much better. You have Anthony Richardson coming back next season. And now you have the Titans. Will Levis, a bit of a question mark down there, but still, that division is pretty competitive now. And AFC at West, you know, AFC East with Rodgers back and healthy, you know, you guys get it. It's very, very competitive. It's going to be tough. But the Bengals have proven in previous years that they can compete with the Chiefs. They can compete with the Ravens in their own division. They can compete with the Bills. They've actually, you know, played the Bills pretty well. So this is a roster that is going to get tested, I think, very early on, especially this offense with some new pieces in there. I think it is definitely good enough to be a playoff team, without a doubt. I think Joe Burrow being healthy is essential to the Bengals' success. That's not a hot take. Everybody knows that. But the reason to highlight that is because it's actually really been in question the past couple seasons. I don't want to label Joe Burrow as injury prone, but if he gets hurt again this year, I think there are going to be conversations that will be had about his health. So I will say, though, good on the Bengals to really make an effort and priority to add more depth to the O-line, to prioritize making sure Joe Burrow gets the necessary pass protection he deserves. But other than that, this offense will be tested against some very good defenses this year, and we'll see if the Bengals can get back to the Super Bowl. So in order for Joe Burrow to really take the Bengals back to the Super Bowl this year, he's going to have to knock off guys like Patrick Mahomes. I think CJ Stroud, the Texans, will be a huge threat. I'm not going to count out Josh Allen, though the Bills roster is worse. I'm not going to count him out. Even Rodgers, you know, if the Jets come back, I think their offense is pretty boom or bust, but if it's, you know, boom, then they're going to be very tough to beat as well. Obviously, two in the Dolphins, ridiculously fast as well. I want to say the Colts, honestly. I think they're a bit of a sleeper team for this year. They were pretty decent last season, and now they get their potential franchise quarterback back and healthy. You know, there's a lot of very good teams the Bengals have to get through to get back to the Super Bowl, but it starts with Joe Burrow's health and ends with Joe Burrow's health. So if he is healthy, this Bengals roster, without a doubt, in my opinion, is able to compete with the best in the AFC. But it really comes down to Joe Burrow and his health. But guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know down below if you guys think the Bengals will make or miss the playoffs next year, or who your favorite team is, and if, you know, your favorite team's record prediction, all that kind of stuff, whatever it may be. Thank you guys for watching. I do really appreciate it, though. Make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel for more videos like this. I do, like I said, more videos like this. We've done it over the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh's kind of new era there in LA. We've done it over Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young. And I'm probably forgetting one. But yeah, you guys have really seemed to like these videos. So I want to format the exact same way and keep getting them out for you guys. So thanks for all the support there. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.